Good morning, everybody. In this moment, we are going to make a presentation about nuclear energy. My partner is Alejandro La Peña, and I'm Alejandro Lopez. Okay, to talk about nuclear energy, we have to talk about the force. More specific, the four fundamental forces that run in the universe. There are gravity, electromagnetism, strong and weak nuclear force. In this topic, we're going to talk about the strong nuclear force. That is the force that hold together the neutrons and protons in the nucleus. You have to remember that electromagnetics established that same charges in a particle make a repulsive force, but in the nucleus we have protons that are particles with the same charge. So this happens because a strong nuclear force interact with an element particle called gluons. Okay. Take that in mind. We're going to about the principles of nuclear energy. So the principal application of nuclear energy is used in electricity production, and we have to know that, for example, there is in the figure number 4 there are a nuclear reactor core, and in figure number 5 there are that's not the name, it's a heat exchanger that are exactly the same. So coincidence? I think not. Okay. After that, we have to talk that there is two types of use of nuclear energy. We can use it in fission or in fusion. The difference, of course, there is in fission. We're going to break atoms and produce light heavy elements. In that case, we are going to need a very high weight element like uranium or plutonium. In fission, we are going to build a new atom, so we are going to need a very low high elements like helium or hydrogen. Okay, what is more easy or difficult to make? Since 1945, we're used to use fission like as a way to produce energy. But fusion is very hardest and not risky, but it consumes a high level of energy. In this slide, we're going to focus in fusion. We're going to focus in fusion. There is the same energy or the same way to produce energy that use the source. There are two ways or two kind of reactors that nowadays are being studied for produce energy in fusion. The first is an inertial conventional reactor. In a simple way to explain it, it uses lasers to compress a little piece of matter and produce plasma. And the other way is by a tomahawk reactor that use a very powerful magnetic field to produce plasma. Okay, the most common use, like I said before, is by fission. Here we have the parts of a thermonuclear reactor. The first we have the fuel, then we have the coolant, the moderator, and the steam generator, the turbine generator of electricity, the condenser, and the cooling tower. Okay. First, like we have seen here, we have the fuel that is, like I said before, we use very high elements like uranium or plutonium, but not all the nuclear reactors use the same fuel. That depends on the high of enrichment that we need to use or the kind of nuclear reaction that we're going to make. maybe everybody has known that Iran has a plan of uranium enrichment, and that's a kind of nuclear fuel. Why it's necessary to enrich some fuels? Because in a nuclear reaction that we see before, we have the element, and if we add a neutron, it's going to break the neutron. But not all the neutrons are easy to break, or the neutrons have a different type of speed that can make the reaction. Okay, the most common fuels here is uranium and plutonium. For the moderator, okay. A moderator is an element or a part of the reactor that reduces the speed of the neutron produced in the reaction. There are two kinds of neutrons that are produced: a fast or a thermal neutron, or a slow or a slow one. For a nuclear reaction, it's better to use a slow neutron that have a higher potential energy to break the neutron. Normally, the moderator is ordinary water, graphite, or heavy water. The difference of heavy and ordinary water is that heavy water can absorb a higher quantity of don't absorb a higher quantity of neutrons that are absorbed in an ordinary water. Okay, the coolant is used to reduce the temperature in the core, and normally is used to transfer in a loop the heat for produce energy with another fluid, or normally is used like, also, for example, water is used like coolant, and it's transformed in steam to produce energy in a generator. Okay, the control rods normally are the security part of the system to prevent a nuclear explosion of the reactor. Normally it is called a neutron poisons, and a difference of the moderator, they absorb in a higher level quantity of neutrons that stops the reaction in case of an accident. Normally, the control rods are graphite, or normally are graphite or sealants. In the graphite 14, we see a graphite that absorbs protons and neutrons that is normally used in to know the exchange point of energy that has a nuclear reaction. Okay, the final parts of a nuclear plant are the heat exchangers. There are the steam generator, the turbine generator, the condenser, and the coolant tower that we see in the last presentation. Okay, the classification of nuclear reactors are normally by the types of components, by the coolant, the moderator, and of course the chain of nuclear reaction. We have to know that there are, for example, some classifications that are actually the same, but normally in different kind of books they have different parts to specify what are the advantages or disadvantages of the systems. Okay, by changing type of nuclear reactions, there are a thermal reaction and a fast neutron reaction. So if we remember that there are two types of neutrons, a thermal reactor uses a slow neutron. So normally it needs a moderator to change the speed of the neutron And normally, of course, we need enrichment fuel to use it. In a fast neutron reactor, normally there is no moderator, and it's not necessary to enrich the fuel to use the material for a nuclear reaction. In figure 15, we see a neutron energy diagram that is explain that teach where we can see better a thermal neutron or a fast neutron. And we see that a thermal neutron has a relative more energy than a fast neutron. The other is when we use a light water reactors. There are two types of light water reactor: are pressurized water reaction, when the characteristics the most important characteristics that we can see here is that in a pressurized water reactor we have 3 loops of heat exchange system, and the boiled water reactor use the water as a moderator, and is used as well as the fluid to produce energy in a turbine. Here we can see a pressurized heavy water reactor. A difference of the light water reactor, we don't have a boiler system, because heavy water is normally expensive to produce. So we only see it in a loop on the first loop of heat exchanges. Here we see an advanced gas-cooled reactor when we use CO2 as not as moderator, but as a coolant, and we use rapid tubes like a moderator of the reaction. The difference of the system here is that it can reach a higher temperature because we are using CO2 as fluid of heat exchangers. So if we remember, the CO2 or gases has a higher CP than normal fluids. Okay, this is advance of the gas-cooled reactor. It's a high-temperature reactor, and it's a four-generator reactor, and it can reach 1,000 degrees of temperature on the first loop system. Okay, here we have a metal fluid reactor that it can be classified in sodium cooled reactor or in a lead cooled reactor. The advantages of here is that using a metal like sodium is normally safer because we don't have to use pumps to reduce the temperature of the core, because the sodium cooled has a higher CP. Normally is used with pools when the core is inside. And here we're going to talk about more applications.
Okay, as Alejandro said, radiation can be used to improve the quality of life in many more ways than people realize. The main use of nuclear energy is the production of electrical energy. However, there are many other applications in which nuclear technology is used directly or indirectly. The first is the electricity generation. The process to obtain electricity through nuclear energy is the result of a thermodynamic and mechanical process. A nuclear plant like that has the objective of transforming the internal energy of the uranium atoms into electrical energy. This process is carried out following certain steps to obtain mechanical energy, and thus the electric generation is responsible for producing electrical energy. And this is the Koeberg Nuclear Power Station. Is contributing approximately 6% of South Africa's electricity generation, and it has been operating for more than 25 years. The medical applications. There are many applications of radiation in the medical field, ranging from diagnostics to treatment and disease management. Many of these use radioactive elements like radioisotopes produced from either reactors or cyclotrons. Radiology is a broad area of using images produced through radiation to diagnose and treat disease. The most well-known technique is the X-rays, like that. Is normally used to examine whether bones are broken. However, sometimes radiology includes techniques where radioactive materials is usually injected into the patient. In the industrial application, industries around the world use radioactive materials in a variety of ways to improve productivity and safety, and to obtain information that couldn't be obtained in other ways. The application include fields such as engineering, materials analysis, measuring device, process controls in factories, oil and mineral exploration, and checking oil and gas pipelines for leaks. Radioactive materials are even used in devices designed to detect explosives. And here are some examples where the measuring device contains radioactive materials and their uses in different tasks. Within agricultural applications, we can find the food irradiation and the insect controls. In the food irradiation, the use of gamma rays and electron beams in irradiating foods to control disease causing microorganisms and to extend the shelf life of the food products. And in the insect control, one method is the control of insects, including the control of screwworms, fruit flies, and tsetse flies. Is through the sterile insect technique, like that. The applications in consumer products. One of the most common use of radioactive materials in the home is in the smoke detectors. The device contains tiny amounts of radioactive materials which make the detectors sensitive to smoke. Finally, the nuclear safety and security. The use of nuclear energy is so risky because it involves the generation and handling of radioactive products. Therefore, adequate measures are necessary to reduce this risk. Containing barriers is a physical security and are four. The first is formed by the food pellets themselves, which, due to their ceramic structure, retain the radioactive substance produced in the fission. The second barrier is formed by the roots that contain the fluid. The third is the cooling circuit formed by the reactor pieces, and the fourth barrier is the containment building. And technological safeguards to protect these protection barriers is a set of systems that have been designed taking into account the occurrence of events during the operation of the plant, such as an earthquake or a flood. Defense in depth. This concept is applied according to which successive levels of protection are established. And finally, the emergency plans. The emergency plans are the last level of protection that can be counted in case of failure of all barriers to contain a radioactive substance.
Finally, we have a video to show you Purple game, but it doesn't have some.